If you're thinking about moving to Northern Virginia, before you make it official, you need to watch this video first because I've got 10 things that you're probably not gonna like, and a few of them might even be deal breakers. So we're going through each one, and I'm gonna be brutally honest and not sugarcoat any of them, and your job is simple. Decide if you can handle these or not before you choose to move to Northern Virginia. And trust me, you're not gonna wanna miss it, so let's dive right into it. Boom! Hey everybody, it's David, your favorite realtor. So number one, right out the gate is traffic. So who likes sitting in traffic? I know I don't. Well, according to usnews.com, the DC Metro has the 8th worst traffic in the entire country. This is gonna be for the whole DMV area with DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So basically, this translates to terrible traffic in Northern Virginia, and the good rule of thumb is the closer you get to DC, the worse the traffic gets. But what really adds to the traffic in our region, one is increasing population, high amount of accidents, and never-ending road construction. Now, if I can give you one tip of the traffic, and I know this is easier said than done, but try to avoid the major highways during rush hour like 66 and 495, because getting on those highways during rush hour can literally feel like you're stuck in a parking lot. So I personally live in Loudoun County, and the overall traffic in Loudoun really isn't that bad at all, but it's a different story once I cross into Fairfax County and Arlington County. So since I don't have a 9-to-5 job, I don't have to be in an office at a certain time. But if I had to deal with that daily 9-to-5 commute, I would be absolutely miserable. So in the past, I've had people comment on my videos that I'm exaggerating about the traffic, and I always say the same thing. Go on 495 during rush hour and you let me know how much I'm exaggerating. So traffic overall in Northern Virginia is absolutely terrible, and it's just something we have to deal with. But what I do personally, I like to think of traffic as the price of admission for living in such a great area. Next up is the meals tax. So when you relocate to Northern Virginia, you may notice that your restaurant bill is a little higher than you expect. And it's not just because the menu prices are higher, as you're gonna find a meals tax on your bill, which is an extra tax on prepared food and drinks. So when you go out to a restaurant for food and drinks, or grab a coffee at Starbucks, or even get pizza delivered to your house, you will now be paying 4% more. And this is in addition to the 6% sales tax that's already in place. So you will now be paying 10% in total taxes on prepared food and drinks. This is definitely one of those death by 1,000 cuts expenses that can really add up over time. So most of Northern Virginia has the meals tax, including Fairfax County, Arlington County, and Prince William County. But Loudoun County is gonna be the exception to this rule, as you're not gonna find the meals tax in Loudoun County unless you're inside the town of Leesburg. But I'm sure it's just a matter of time before Loudoun County adds a meals tax. So nobody likes a meals tax, especially my wife. Every time we go out to dinner, she always says, David, we're not going to Fairfax County. I'm not paying the 4% meals tax. We need to eat right here in Loudoun County, more specifically Ashburn. Now, a lot of times I don't have an issue doing that. However, some of my favorite restaurants are gonna be located in Fairfax County, and a small 4% meals tax is not gonna stop me personally from going to those restaurants. Next up, and this is by far the biggest con and challenge of living in Northern Virginia, is high cost of living. So since Northern Virginia is one of the wealthiest areas in the country, our cost of living reflects this. And the main factors with our high cost of living is our high cost of housing and the high cost of daycare. And wait till I share with you the daycare prices. You literally may cancel your move to Northern Virginia on the spot. But let's start off with housing. So the median sales price of a home in Northern Virginia comes out to $715,000. Now to put that into context, let's compare that to the rest of the country, where the median sales price comes out to $428,000. So Northern Virginia home prices are 68% more expensive compared to the country as a whole. Now, in most of the country, $715,000 actually buys you a really nice single-family home. In fact, I have clients relocating into Arkansas, and just out of curiosity, I jumped on Zillow just to see what they can get for $700,000. And some of these single-family homes easily would be $1.5, $1.6, $1.7 million single family homes in our region. So what $715,000 gets you in Northern Virginia is a 2,000 square foot townhouse, maybe with a 1 or 2 car garage, or a much older and smaller single family home that might even be a teardown. Also, later on in the video, I'm gonna share with you the premium that you have to pay for a newer home, so stay tuned for that. Now let's look at rentals. So the average rental in Northern Virginia comes out to $3,600 per month. So you don't get much relief when it comes to renting as well. So whether you're buying a $715,000 home or paying $3,600 per month for rent, that is a lot of money. And this is hands down the number one reason why I would personally leave Northern Virginia, is the extremely high cost of housing. I would love to buy a $700,000 single family home, but I know that's basically impossible here. Now, unfortunately, I'm stuck in Northern Virginia because of my profession. It requires me to actually live in Northern Virginia. But if I was in a different profession, I would 100% consider relocating out of Northern Virginia. Now let's talk about daycares. And this could potentially be your highest non-housing monthly expense. So my 3-year-old goes to daycare here in Ashburn. And I remember a little over 2 years ago when I started doing my research on daycares, I literally called the 15 closest daycares to my house. And they're all in the price range of $2,000 to $2,500 per month. And I remember my initial reaction. I was shocked how expensive daycare was. So when my friends and family were pushing my wife and I to have kids, they failed to mention how expensive daycare was. So according to care.com, the average cost of daycare in the US comes out to $1,486 per month. However, you can be paying a lot more than that here in Northern Virginia, especially Loudoun County. So my wife and I pay $2,300 per month for daycare, and that is a lot of money. That's literally more expensive than some private schools in our region, and is more expensive than the first condo my wife and I bought together. Now the good news is it's only 2 more years until my daughter goes to kindergarten, which will be free, but I'm sure there'll be some new monthly expense I'm not foreseeing. So chances are, if you're watching this video, you're relocating to Northern Virginia for a new career opportunity, and there's a high probability that's coming with a pay increase as well. But you gotta make sure that pay increase is enough to adjust for our high cost of living, because the last thing you wanna do is move to Northern Virginia. Yes, you got a higher salary, but your purchasing power is less than what you're leaving behind. So in that scenario, moving to Northern Virginia would not make sense at all. Now, as much as I love making YouTube videos about living right here in Northern Virginia, what I love even more is helping folks just like you relocate to the area. So if you're even thinking about moving to Northern Virginia, reach out to me, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. Just know I got your back when you move into Northern Virginia. Next up is airplane noise. So one of the biggest advantages to living in Northern Virginia is having 2 major airports right in your backyard. First, you've got Dulles International Airport, which is located on the border of Fairfax and Loudoun County. Then you have Reagan National Airport, which is located in Arlington. Now, without question, the number one reason why it's such a huge advantage is you get to shop both airline rates and travel times in 2 different airports. And sometimes it even makes sense to use both airports. Like I just went to Vegas recently, and the least expensive option was to fly out of Dulles and fly back to Reagan. So yes, it's a huge advantage having 2 major airports. However, this comes at a price. As many areas throughout the region, you will definitely hear airplane noise. Now, some areas are gonna be worse than others. Well, I personally live in Ashburn, which is about 10 miles away from Dulles International Airport, and it's one of the worst areas for airplane noise. Now, if I'm inside my house, windows are closed, I don't really hear the airplane noise. However, if I go outside, let's say for a walk, or I'm hanging out on my balcony, within 5 minutes, I will hear airplane noise that sounds just like this. So I personally don't think it's that bad. At worst, it's a small inconvenience, but it definitely should not be a deal breaker. Next up is weather extremes. So I'm gonna try to not be a prisoner of the moment, because I'm filming this video in probably one of the worst stretches of winter I've ever experienced in 26 years. So we had that huge snowstorm about 10 days ago, which has now turned to ice. And we just hit our 12th straight day with the high temperature staying below freezing, which is the longest streak since 1989. So Northern Virginia definitely doesn't have the best weather in the country, but we don't have the worst as well. Kind of lands somewhere in the middle. So living in Northern Virginia, you are going to experience all 4 seasons with hot and humid summers, extremely windy and cold winters. Then springtime brings lots of rain with high levels of pollen. And then fall has absolutely perfect weather. Not too hot, not too cold, little rain, but unfortunately it's over in a blink of an eye. Now the biggest complaint with the weather in Northern Virginia is it can fluctuate extremely quickly. For example, I've seen it 68 degrees one day and then the next day we get 5 inches of snow. Or I've seen us get 0 rain for 15 straight days or non-stop rain pours for 15 straight days. Or my personal favorite, it's 80 degrees today and 30 degrees tomorrow. So there's a funny meme I want to share with you. And this meme emphasizes our all over the place weather. And it shows that we actually have 12 seasons of weather in Virginia, not 4. And as of me filming this video, we're right in the middle of winter. So the best analogy that I can think of to describe our weather is think of our weather as like a toddler. Because a toddler one moment can be super happy, smiling, playful, and then 2 seconds later, they're having a complete meltdown. And then 10 minutes later, they're completely happy again. And that is our weather in Northern Virginia in a nutshell. Now, the next thing that you need to handle in Northern Virginia is allergy season. And I'm not talking about just a little sniffle. Since we have a lot of trees in our region, when spring hits, the pollen can be absolutely brutal. I'm talking about itchy eyes, congestion, non-stop sneezing, and a runny nose that feels like an open faucet. For some people, it's mild. However, for others, it's weeks of suffering. So if you suffer from seasonal allergies like I do, then Claritin will literally be your best friend. And no, this video is not sponsored by Claritin, but it should be, and I'll definitely take their money. But yes, allergy season is absolutely brutal. Literally during the springtime, I keep a tissue box in every single room in my house. I'm talking about bedrooms, bathroom, kitchen, offices, and I keep my car stocked with tissue at all times as well. So my wife does not get allergies, but right on cue, around March or April, I'm gonna have a non-stop runny nose, and she always says the same thing. Are you sick? And I always say, no, I'm not sick. I'm just suffering through the allergies right now. Next up is the personal property tax, AKA the car tax. So what is this car tax all about? Well, in Virginia, we have sales tax and real estate property taxes, just like the rest of the country. But we also have another tax, which is the personal property tax. And this is a tax levied on the ownership of personal property, such as cars, motorcycles, trucks, boats, campers, trailers, and planes. And since most people don't own boats and planes, but everybody owns a car, that's why it's commonly referred to as the car tax. So 24 other states actually have a personal property tax as well. However, Virginia has the highest car tax in the entire nation. So the county I personally live in, which is Loudoun County, the personal property tax rate is $4.15 per $100 of assessed value. Now let me share with you what I paid for my last car tax bill, and this number will absolutely shock you. So my household has two cars, a 2024 BMW X5 and a 2021 Tesla Model 3. And my last tax bill came out to $3,258. That one hurts quite a bit. So yes, the personal property tax, AKA the car tax, absolutely sucks. But the only saving grace is your car's value tends to go down over time. So as your value goes down, then your personal property tax bill will go down as well. Next up, and this is one thing that everybody in Northern Virginia loves to complain about, toll roads. As you're gonna find 7 different toll roads in our region. Now, tolls can either be a small convenience fee when absolutely needed, or it can feel like a monthly subscription service. So let me share with you our newest and most expensive toll in our region. And that's the recently opened 66 express lanes, which has actually been a game changer for avoiding traffic. However, it comes at a steep price. And if you're thinking, how high can it really get? It can get really high, up to $40 one way. Now, I don't personally use the 66 express lanes too often. However, just recently, I had no choice but to jump on them. I was in Centerville, had an appointment in Fairfax, which I was running late to, and it's during 5 o'clock rush hour. So I jumped in the 66 express lanes. I'm literally zooming down, going 65, 70 miles an hour. I look to my right in the free lanes. Everybody's going 5, 10, maybe 15 miles an hour max. So the toll ended up costing me 12 bucks, but I got to my appointment right on time. So tolls can definitely add up very quickly. In fact, I personally know people who spend between $250 and $350 per month on tolls. So I personally spend about $75, $100 per month on tolls. Because of my profession of being a realtor, plus I make YouTube videos on what it's like living in Northern Virginia, I have to travel all throughout the region. And I really value my time, and I want to get to my destination as quickly as possible. So if you're not trying to spend $100, $200, or $300 per month on tolls, well, they're definitely avoidable. It just may take you longer to get to your destination. Next up is older homes. So one thing a lot of people don't realize before moving to Northern Virginia is how old a lot of our housing is. As a huge chunk of the housing stock was built decades ago, so you're gonna find many neighborhoods where the homes are built in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. In fact, 48% of all the homes in Northern Virginia were built before the year 1986. So if you're picturing shiny new neighborhoods everywhere, well, that's simply not the reality. Now, it's really gonna depend on where you live, as places like Arlington and Fairfax County have much older homes compared to the outer suburbs you'll find in Loudoun and parts of Prince William County. And you don't need data for this one. And the easiest way to understand this is just go drive through Arlington and Fairfax neighborhoods and then go drive through Loudoun County neighborhoods, and you'll notice the difference in age of homes almost immediately. Now, you can find newer homes, even new construction homes all throughout the region, but here's the part that surprises people the most. Newer homes come at a massive premium, especially for single family homes. For example, if you want a single family home that was built after 2016, well, the median sales price is $1.5 million. But if you're looking at an older single family home, let's say built before 2000, well, the median sales price is only $860,000. And that's almost double just to get something newer. So if you are relocating to Northern Virginia and you want a single family home that was built within the past 10 years for under $900,000, is it possible? Yes, but your options are gonna be extremely limited. So you really have to decide what matters more. A newer home that comes at a premium, or saving a ton of money and potentially dealing with the cons that come with an older home. Next up, and this is something that catches a lot of people off guard in Northern Virginia, the deer. And I'm not talking about, oh, look at that cute little deer in the backyard. I'm talking about deer everywhere. In your neighborhoods, in the side streets, in your backyard, and especially the roads that run along wooded areas. So if you are driving by the woods, you must be on high alert, especially at nighttime on roads that don't have street lights, because deer don't slowly ease into the road, they pop out of nowhere. And a lot of times if you see one, then suddenly 2 or 3 more follow right behind it. So you have to be 100% locked in driving at nighttime. In fact, I've had many friends over the years either A, hit deers or have come very close. And my friends who have hit deers, unfortunately, the deer ends up passing away and they do serious damage to their car. Now, I'm extremely grateful I've never come close to hitting a deer, but I know it's always a possibility, especially driving at nighttime. So yes, overall, there's a lot of cons when it comes to living in Northern Virginia, but I think the pros greatly outweigh the cons of living here. And if you are thinking about moving to the area, reach out to me. We can jump on a call, talk about your goals, talk about your timing, and come up with a game plan to make your relocation to Northern Virginia go as easy and smooth as possible. And if you want to learn more about living right here in Northern Virginia, check out this video right here. I go over the pros and cons of Northern Virginia's most popular county, Fairfax County, and trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. And I'll see you on the next video.